Welcome to Out of My Mouth, the program where raw thoughts meet unfiltered conversations.
Join us as we dive into the depths of human experience, where we share stories, perspectives, and insights that just might challenge the status quo.
Get ready to laugh, cry, and ponder the world around you like never before. This is Out of My Mouth.
The views and opinions of our guest and hosts do not necessarily reflect those of New Thought Media Network, or any organization we may be affiliated with. Here at New Thought Media Network, we welcome freedom of speech and courageous conversations. There are many topics that can be difficult to navigate. Challenging the status quo and engaging in lively debate is important to expanding our understanding of one another, and life in general. Creating a peaceful world doesn't happen because no one disagrees, it happens from a willingness to understanding one another. In our programming, we strive to expand consciousness and assist people in creating remarkable lives. Your comments are welcome at info@ntmedia.org.
Good afternoon and welcome to Out of My Mouth. I'm Barbara Jean, and this is my co-host, Marc Dupuis. Excuse me, forget who I'm working with.
Sorry, that's all good.
Sorry, Marc. I am so delighted to be here with you today. This afternoon, we are talking about being comfortable with the uncomfortable, because that's where all the good stuff happens. So get ready for an incredible conversation. But let's start with the land acknowledgement. In the spirit of reconciliation and peace, we are grateful for the opportunity to meet on these sacred lands. We thank the generations of people who have taken care of these lands for thousands of years. We recognize our oneness. We realize our history, and we choose to create a new reality, for we are one. Miigwech. Marc.
Thank you, Barbara. Now it's my pleasure to introduce Reverend Brenda Peters, and I'm looking forward to this conversation. Reverend Brenda has a passion for transforming lives, being of service to others, and learning continuously. I look forward to hearing about the learning too. After working over 20 years in many different positions as an administrative assistant and support roles, she felt the pull to be of service and inspire others to be their true selves. She also wanted to explore spirituality and become more self-aware. This led her on a spiritual journey, looking for a faith in which she felt she could do all this and much more. Then that's when she found unity and felt the teachings aligned with her. She is now the Senior Minister of Unity of Omaha in Omaha, Nebraska. Welcome, Brenda. Now I want to dig into that motorcycle story. 800 pounds of it. You're on.
Glad you're here, Brenda.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
About being comfortable with the uncomfortable. And your motorcycle's a great start.
Yes, it is. So the motorcycle that was in the promo picture is now my old motorcycle. I do have a new one that I just bought about a week or two, and it's much bigger, and it is 800 pounds. And so part of it is learning how to drive something that is much different than the old one. And in doing so, I became uncomfortable because in motorcycles terms, I dumped it. I dumped it twice. And so the first time there were people around me that could help me. And most of the time when you dump a bike, there's a little bit of shame, you know, you might feel some shame or upset or anger, you know, whatever, and frustration, and then, you know, embarrassment. But the first time I didn't. And I was really observing myself, and it was interesting how there was no feeling of any of that. It was just, it happened. But then with the second time, I was by myself, and two gentlemen had to, you know, they stopped and said, "Do you need help?" And that made me uncomfortable because I know I need to ask for help, and I try to make it a practice. And I said yes, I accepted their help because I couldn't get it up by myself. And with that one, though, I did feel embarrassment and anger that it happened again. So it's interesting how, you know, it was in the same day, hours apart, but yet my feeling had totally changed the second time. I wasn't, you know, I wasn't okay with that. Like, that's my old bike, and that one I can pick up by myself.
Yeah.
That's not a problem. Yeah, that's not a problem at all.
I was going to say that looks like a pretty big bike.
Look, she's mean. She looks mean, but she's not. So that one's not a problem. So I have not been used to, you know, having my bike go down, first of all, and then having to, you know, have somebody else help me. But so it was a learning, and it's still teaching me. Like, I created bad habits with my old bike, but with the new one, it's teaching me, no, we don't do that with, you don't drive that way. That's not a good habit to have. So, you know, on many different levels, I'm learning new spiritual lessons, and I'm super aware of that. And being being comfortable with being uncomfortable is right in the thick of it. Yeah.
It's funny how you choose a topic and then ta-da!
Here's your lesson.
Here's your lesson. Oh my goodness.
Yeah. So it's been. Go ahead. Sorry.
I was just trying to think of the author of What I Learned on the Other Side of the Refrigerator or something. Has either one of have you? No way. And
No.
Anyway, the lessons, what we can learn in everyday life from a motorcycle to a refrigerator to you know, yeah.
Yeah.
Everything I needed to learn, I learned in kindergarten.
Yes, and there's a refrigerator. Yes, Barbara, that person.
That one's pretty good. I can't remember his name, but I have the book.
It's right. Me too. It's like right here. He talks about the other side of the refrigerator too. But yeah. So it sounds like you have a parallel, not how to parallel park, but a parallel on.
Yes.
Parking was the first time it fell.
Parking was the first time it fell. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, there's been other, you know, I mean, throughout my life, there have been uncomfortable moments. And learning how to navigate those. And I mean, I don't know if anybody gets totally comfortable being uncomfortable. I would, you know, I would challenge that, because I would think at first, you know, you have that feeling of, you know, and it's from there, can you manage that feeling? And get into that comfortability, get into just being okay.
I think it requires a little bit of courage to do something different. And I think as women, we have a little bit of difficulty asking for help. It's just,
I would agree. Yeah, I would totally agree, because I mean, I know in my own life, I was taught to be independent. And then there was, I mean, this was way back when. So there was a lot of women can't do that. Women can't do that. No, you can't do that because you're a girl, you know, that kind of stuff. And I would always push that. No, I can.
Mm.
And watch me do this. And
That's
yeah. And so asking for help, especially back then, was like, don't do that because then you can't do it. And then they were right.
Mm.
Yeah. So, so learning how that it doesn't matter if I'm a woman or not, you know,
Yeah.
have I learned what I need to learn? Do I have the skill set? If I don't have the skill set, where can I get that? And being able to ask for that help, you know, I have to learn from someone else. That's asking for help in its own right. So
Yeah.
being able to do that, I mean, I think everyone struggles, not just women. I think at some level, everyone struggles with that.
I think everyone does as well. I think with women, though, we tend to go a lot longer before we'll turn around and say, help me. I can't do this. And you made a point about, and I don't know if this was in our previous conversation before we started, but just about the idea of men and women and how, we can feel a little more uncomfortable when it's a man that's going to come and give us support. Like somehow I'm not able to do it, so I need this guy to come in and do it for me. So I think that creates some challenges for some women as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially for someone like me who was told from males, no, you can't do that because you're a woman, you know?
Yeah.
So then to actually ask for help from a man or even accept that help from a man is, you know, it has been a challenge my entire life. I'm
Yeah.
now to the point where I'm okay with it. And I even made a joke with my friend because there were two guys that helped me the second time it went down, and they were both really good looking. And I'm like, maybe I'll meet my next boyfriend this way. I don't know.
You just might.
Trying to make something good out of that situation.
You never know. People meet in the oddest ways sometimes, and that would be a really great way to meet somebody. That's hilarious.
Yeah.
And a good story, right?
It would be a really good
And a
story.
good story.
How I met my husband.
Brenda, you talked about when you were processing how you felt. You talked about anger. Can you hear me? I'm freezing again. You talked about anger? Can you speak to that? The anger part?
Yeah. So the second time I did have anger because when it happened the first time, I said, okay, that's it. That's my one time. It's not going to happen again. And so then it happened again, and I was by myself. So behind that anger, I mean, I've learned that behind maybe the surfacey feelings is something else. And there was fear. Like I was almost out in the middle of an intersection. There were cars going by really fast. So there was fear that either I was going to get hit or my bike was going to get hit.
Yeah.
And I was trying very fast to pick up this bike that I couldn't pick up. So I was very angry in that moment. And even afterwards, I had to calm myself down. And it was totally because of the fear. That's where, for me, if I have fear or if I have, if I have frustration or anger, there's usually a fear underneath.
Yeah.
And so if I address that fear, then I can manage that anger and I can manage that frustration. So at some point when those guys helped me, I was like, okay, this is going to get solved. I don't have to feel this anymore. I mean, I can walk through this after I park my bike, which I did. I took breaths and I'm like, okay, this is just a learning opportunity, and it is what it is. And everybody does this. Everybody, I don't care who they are, at least once your bike goes down. And so, you know, and I had just come from a ride where a lot of women, it was International Female Motorcycle Riding Day, also on May 3rd. So that was why we went on the ride. And I heard from a lot of ladies that they, you know, had the same thing happen to them. So it's just talking myself through that. Like, it's okay. It's okay. It's okay to make mistakes, and it's okay to have these things happen. And it's okay to feel uncomfortable with all of that, and learn how it's okay.
I think that's the whole message, is that what is, it's neither good or bad. It's simply what is. And if we can get to a place of just accepting that it is what it is, then we are more likely to have fewer of those emotions. But if we're, you know, if we've got really high perfectionist ideas about what we should or shouldn't be able to do, that's when it gets a little bit harder to navigate those feelings. And it's, you know, you made an important point about anger. It's always a secondary emotion. Anger is never primary. And often it's fear that pulls it up. Because when you look at the first time you jumped the bike, it was in a parking spot. It's a safe place, right? So yeah, handled that. No problem. I got this. Got the help you needed and with the bike. But when you're in an intersection, it's like, yeah, I'd be terrified. I remember learning how to drive stick and stalling on a bit of a hill at a light, and everybody behind me honking their horn.
Yeah.
I'm trying to work the clutch, and you know, these are not the new standard cars that they have today, but way back when holding that clutch in takes every bit of power you got. And it's like, but there, you know, there was embarrassment. I felt humiliated. Like, there's all kinds of emotions that go, but it comes basically from that fear place of, you know, what are people going to think of me, or will I get harmed, or, you know, there's all these things, but definitely fear is the big mover in that case. So how do we get comfortable with the discomfort, you know, change in jobs, or change in relationship, or moving in our homes, or what is a good way to begin to navigate some of those changes that are uncomfortable?
Well, I think one of the first things is acknowledging your feelings that you're having, and then to feel them. You're right, it is what it is. And for me at least, to get to that point, I have to first acknowledge what I'm feeling, and then feel it.
Yes.
And allow myself to feel that. And when I do that, then I'm able to take some kind of action, whether it's just praying or meditating or breathing. I mean, it depends on what situation you're in, but breathing or reaching out to someone else to talk through it. Or, you know, if it's something else that you can go to a support group for, you know, go to a support group. But there's various actions you can take. But I don't know. There's something that I've learned over time, and it's awareness, acceptance, and action.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah. And so with that, and being able to take that tool, like, okay, I have awareness now, and I'm feeling my feelings, and I am accepting I'm having those feelings, and it's okay, and it's going to be all right. And now I can take action. And sometimes action is doing nothing.
Yeah.
It all depends on the situation or the uncomfortable, whatever it is that you're, you know, in. It all depends.
I think one of the most uncomfortable things for any of us in leadership role is having to fire somebody, or having to have a really difficult conversation with a volunteer or staff member that we really like, but we have to have a conversation. is it the same thing? Noticing your feelings, accepting, and then taking action. Is it the same process, you think?
Oh, for me it is, yeah. Absolutely. I have to be aware first of how I'm feeling about the whole situation, and then even accepting that I'm the one who has to manage this and take care of this situation. Like some days it's like, I don't want to accept that.
I don't
But,
want to do it.
yeah, it's part of the gig. So, and then doing the action. And part of doing the action is also researching, like, what information do I need to know? Do I need any papers in front of me? Do I need, what do I need to know before I take this action? And a lot of prayer and a lot of meditation, even before, you take the action. Yeah.
Yeah, I like that. I like that.
I'm thinking of perhaps something that may be uncomfortable, may not be. So there's a reverend in front of your name,
Mm-hmm.
and you have human experiences.
I
And
do.
I've heard from minister friends that people are surprised when they see them in the grocery store or out eating in a restaurant, because there's a perception that these leaders, especially ministers, live in this little bubble. So if you were presenting to your congregation your story about your motorcycle or your feelings of anger or whatever, I'm guessing there's some discomfort there for you.
Well,
No? Yes.
I did actually tell them about this last Sunday. At the end, because it kind of it all, like spirit does, it just all flowed together. And I have to say, I'm more used to it. It is an uncomfortable situation to be vulnerable to, 70 people at one time and then more online. However, I'm getting to the point now where I'm getting more comfortable with it, and I allow myself to feel uncomfortable, but also allow myself to do it, because being vulnerable and authentic are the two biggest things that I want to be. And it's kind of like my own personal mission for being a reverend, is to show up who I am the same every day. Like, what you see in the grocery store is what you're going to see when you come in to, my office, or if you come in to talk to me. It's not going to change. You get one person, and that's the same person. And so when I said it Sunday and I told them the story very briefly, I began to cry, because I hit a part in me where I had said, and I know that there's still love in the world, and I know that there's still good, and that there's people willing to do the right thing for the right reasons. And then that's where I went into these two men from out of nowhere helped me. I think it's very easy to forget that. And so when I told the story, I was crying. They're kind of used to me now doing that every now and then. I laughingly call myself the crying minister, because at first, when I was vulnerable and I shared like that, I would cry. Like, and then now it's becoming easier, but I think it happened this Sunday because I was just still, so my feelings were still right there,
Yeah.
So that can be very uncomfortable, but I do believe in being the same person, and to let people know that, hey, yeah, I'm a minister, but I have feelings.
Still human.
I'm very human. So
Yeah.
yeah.
I know.
I
one
just
of
want to say that that doesn't surprise me at all from our brief exchanges. You come forward as being very authentic, and so that what you just shared does not surprise me at all.
exactly
Barbara.
right. Well, I was just gonna share my most vulnerable moment in ministry. I was speaking at a center that I've spoke at a number of times, and I was doing the Mother's Day service. And partway through the service, there was this push in the back of my mind. You got to talk about this. You got to talk. And I'm going, I ain't talking about that. I ain't talking about that. I'm not going to share that. And then, I mean, it just kept happening. So I turned around and it was like, okay, I have to share this. And so I stood up and said, well, I've been married 5 times. And 5th time's a charm. Finally worked. And everybody in the place, you could just see this hushed whisper. What did she say? And then I followed it up with, I was hoping to beat Liz Taylor, but stopped at 5. And then they just lost it. And what was interesting is I had easily 15 women come up to me afterwards. And one in particular did not attend that church. She was only there because her kids go there. And she said to me, that was the most honest sermon she had ever heard. And whenever I was speaking, she would be in the room. She's, because she's accustomed to getting something else, I guess. But anyway, that was my, it was like right from the beginning of the talk, it was pushing. You gotta say this, you gotta say this. And I'm like, yeah, I ain't saying that.
I know I wasn't going to talk about mine at all. And while it did have something to do with my talk, but it didn't really, because I was talking about a Unity author. And about prayer, about affirmative prayer. But by the end of the talk, like you, I get that, where it just like you have to talk about this. And
say it. Somebody needs to hear it.
Exactly. And you're right. It never fails. Every time I get that hit, like you got to tell them about that. And okay, somebody comes up and says, I needed to hear that. Thank you. Or, you hit it right on the head for me. And I'm like, okay, good. I'm glad.
You knew what the reason was. Well, we're going to take a short break. You're watching Out of My Mouth here on the New Thought Media Network. And our wonderful guest, Reverend Brenda Peters, is sharing all sorts of insights about being comfortable with the uncomfortable. So don't go away. We'll be back in just a couple of minutes.
Please help us say thank you to our organizational sponsors, including the Hepperlin Foundation, Affiliated New Thought Network, International New Thought Alliance, Science of Mind Archives and Library Foundation, Center for Spiritual Living Denver, Center for Spiritual Living Midtown, New Thought Philadelphia, Planned Happiness Institute, Summit Center for Spiritual Living, One Heart Retreats, Center for Spiritual Living on the Lake, Unity Spiritual Center, Kitchener, Om Center for Spiritual Living, La Mesa, Satya Center, Center for Spiritual Living, North Jersey, Unity of Savannah, and Center for Spiritual Living, Seattle, as well as all of our individual donors. Thank you for making New Thought Media Network a place to be. Please come be you. And remember, like, share, and subscribe. New Thought Media Network, positively inspiring.
And we're back with more comfortable with the uncomfortable. Brenda, what do we got?
More uncomfortable.
You know, this is not uncomfortable. I just like how you saw the beauty, the kindness in the world by the two gentlemen that came to help you. It's being observant to what's around us, right? There is awesomeness in this world.
I love
Yeah,
it.
absolutely. And, that's one thing that I have talked about on Sunday mornings is that, we had a tornado here. What was it? Last year, actually in April last year. And when I talked about it on a Sunday, I said, no one stopped to ask, hey, what political party are you? Because I'm not going to help you if you are. Nobody said that.
Yeah.
We all just helped each other. And like these two gentlemen, they didn't ask me. They don't care, just do you need help? So I think that's important to remember right now, that when it comes down to it, we can get to a place of helping each other and of working as one together. So we just let the noise around us get to us sometimes. So
I think
Absolutely.
yeah. And that's also right now it is uncomfortable for a lot of people, worldwide.
Worldwide, yes.
Worldwide. And so just learning how to be okay and comfortable right now is in its own right a practice.
Yeah.
You have to breathe into it. And some people like, how can you be happy? How should you, and I remember reading a quote, and I don't remember who it was. I know it was an indigenous chief leader, and they had said, we have had years and years of wrongdoing and racism and what have you. And it's important to have joy every day and learn how to be happy and learn how to keep going and learn how to, not let it get you down, because otherwise, they've won. So,
Yeah.
and that's loosely quoted, by the way.
Loose quote.
Yeah, loosely quoted. But, and it is, because a lot of people do feel like I shouldn't be happy. I shouldn't do this. I shouldn't do that. And that can get to you. And then, you're out of helping anybody when you're in depression or when you're, feeling like you can't do anything. Because just helping your neighbor is doing something. So
Yeah. There's a lot of kindness in our world. There's a lot more kindness than there is the opposite. And I think we miss that because the opposite is what hits the news.
Yeah.
The meanness, the disrespect, all of that stuff tends to hit the evening news. But all of the good that was done never gets reported. Well, except here Friday nights at 7:00 Eastern time. And then we do good news. But it's the news cycle has become something that for me is really uncomfortable. And so I don't watch it because it's on a loop and it just repeats the same things over and over again. And that's imprinting on our minds and not doing us any favors, that's for sure. So for me, I want to catch my news in little snippets. I don't want to be bombarded with a 24/7 news cycle. But I know there's people who watch that and then they'll sit back and say, I have so much anxiety. Well, of course you do. You might I would have an anxiety. Like my husband was watching the debates, the presidential debates, and I'm like, I'm watching that because I know it's just bashing heads, basically. I'm not going to learn anything. I do better to read something that gives me the platforms or the plans for each person. But to sit back and watch that for an hour or 2 hours, however long it is, to me is painful, excruciatingly painful. Just
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. And I think it also depends on how you go into it. So to back up for a minute, when you said nobody reports good news, I have noticed that at least the one that national news that I watch, at the end, they do have, here's your one good story, or here's the
Yay.
one good thing. They do have it now. And I'm like, that's a shift. That's a good shift. So they always end with a really good, inspiring story.
Yeah.
And then I also, I like to, because I was supposed to be a journalist. Ha ha ha.
Yeah, me too.
That didn't work out. And so I go into it like I just want the information. I don't, and so it comes in just getting the information at first, and then the feelings come up, and I do have that, like, I can always turn this off at any moment. And sometimes I do, but I also like to listen to maybe what's newsworthy, if you can say it that way, through a comedian, through one of the late night comedians. So I'll watch their YouTube the next day while I'm getting ready and, learn everything I need to know, but in a great humorous way.
Yeah, which is lovely. And I love Valerie's quote, because you're right. Any generalization is never the truth. So she talked about being tired of people saying media never covers positive news, which is true. They do. They do. I'm thinking of that, those, I don't know if you have it there, but we have CP24, which is a 24-hour cycle, and it only drops in the top stories. And then there's probably maybe 15 minutes worth of news, and they're very short snippets, and then they repeat on a cycle. And so that's more of what I'm talking about, where that gets a little uncomfortable. But you're absolutely right, Valerie. There is good news in the news. It's just that predominantly, if it bleeds, it leads. And that's, that's kind of what happens a lot. But thank you for your comment. I really appreciate being corrected, because anytime we say everything is this or everything is that, we're not telling the truth.
Right. And if you think how journalism started, I mean, it was a way of communication to let people know, big things, because there wasn't, we all didn't have phones. And
yeah.
And, so you didn't know what was happening on, over on the other side of the world or anything like that, so it was a way to, and really it has brought us together as a smaller, so as the internet and, all of that. But it was one of the very first ways, I believe, that we all, we finally knew that, hey, there was a country over there.
Yeah, there's something else going on in the world.
Yes, exactly. So,
yeah.
But getting my news from in humor, I love it.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, I'll watch Jon Stewart and The Daily Show, mainly Jon Stewart. I like him the best. And it's like listening to how he reframes things, or how he makes fun of a certain thing, but the way he does it still is getting the information through, which is really, really important. So yeah, that's how I like to get my news too.
Yeah.
Watching Saturday Night Live or
Yes.
the Daily Show. That's where the information. But I always find too that even though I'm not watching it all the time, people are always telling me what I need to know.
Right.
There was a shooting in my neighborhood. I had no idea about it. I live in Toronto. My granddaughter lives in Calgary, which is like 3,000 kilometers away or 3,000 miles away. I don't know, but it's a long ways away. And she phones and goes, "Was that shooting anywhere near you?" And we're like, "What shooting?"
Oh, wow.
So the news always comes. It's just it'll come from, a neighbor or somebody I'm talking to on the street or whatever. Like the information flows in. But I do find that anxiety right now is, there seems to be two things that are really big with people right now, which is anxiety and loneliness. And all of that seemed to start with the pandemic and has carried on. And then, given the state of the world right now, that anxiety is really ramping up. What would be, rather than saying don't watch any news, what would be a good way of helping people deal with their anxiety or their sense of?
Well, I think, and I know that as a practice, I had a friend with really high anxiety, and I believe it was her therapist who told her to do this. Like, what colors are you seeing around where you're at right then, and what are you smelling? What are you hearing? To stop and ask herself all of that in that moment. And yeah, it brings her back to center without, knowing it. But all her senses, what are you seeing? What are you hearing? Are you tasting anything? Can you touch anything? What are you touching? How does it feel? Is it hard, soft? So it brings her back into the moment, and it gives her a chance to breathe. And then she's able to calm that anxiety down. And again, anxiety is one of the second from fear. It's underlying. That fear is underlying. It's under there. And so if you can get into what am I really afraid of right now, and then, gravitate towards the solution to that, and maybe work towards that solution, then that anxiety, I'm not going to say it goes away. It dissipates. It gets a little bit easier to manage. Because I think a lot of people just have anxiety in general all the time for various reasons. So, yeah.
So true.
I'm thinking about the word discomfort and what it implies or means, and thinking there is no step forward, there's no action without discomfort first. If everything when I think of my own self, my own life, if I sit in comfort, I'm not moving.
Right.
I have to step into the discomfort to expand and learn. And
yeah, discomfort is a learning opportunity for sure. And it does create change. Like they say, pain creates change. If you don't have any pain or discomfort, you're right. You're just going to be where you're being. For a while.
I just want to be where I'm being right now.
Well, and that's the same thing spiritually. If you're not challenging your beliefs, and if you're not asking yourself questions of, do I really believe this? Or, how am I going to show up? How am I showing up every day? If you're not questioning yourself, then you're not going to change, and you're not going to, level up. And for my own, I became a minister, number one, because I got the call and I heard it and I got that nudge. But the other, when I started to accept it, like, why would I want to do this? Well, one of my biggest, it's not a goal. It's just, I always want to be growing spiritually. I don't want to be okay with just being here. I want to grow spiritually. So I'm always asking questions, taking classes, reading books, doing whatever it takes for me to get to the next level of, emotional maturity or spiritual maturity, whatever it is, so that I'm continuing to grow. because, well, number one, I really don't want the pain. So I move myself through it, like, but there does, there comes that chemicalization where old belief and new beliefs, they rub against each other. And that's where this, discomfort comes from sometimes. And to learn how to go, okay, I really don't believe in this old belief anymore. And it's okay to let go of it. I'm not unworthy. I'm not, bad. I'm okay. I'm okay to believe this new belief. And to move through that is really a practice of breathing and learning how to be with it, to be okay, and to know that you will shift to the new belief, to that next level, and you'll move forward. So
yeah, change is something we love, isn't it?
I mean, I do. I'm weird. I do. I'm okay with it.
I'm okay with change as well. And I make a lot of it in my life because I don't know. I think it's fun. But I know that change is a real stickler for many, many people. It's the minute a change is coming up, the anxiety is ramped up, and the feelings can be pretty strong. Just trying to navigate it. I like what you said about anxiety. Just what can you do? Touch something, and what do you taste? Like, get really present. And I think that's a really big part of learning how to sit in the discomfort. Being uncomfortable is not a bad place. It's just probably a new place.
Absolutely.
Something new is happening. Something new is being birthed. Something new is coming, which will be, I mean, it's like having a baby. It's really uncomfortable.
Right.
And then it's not, right? And then you got this little bundle of joy that will prevent you from sleeping for the next 18 years. But beyond that.
And give you
then the real discomfort.
Yeah. Make you breathe deep, breathe. Okay.
Parenting is so great. But I think that journey, of navigating discomfort is really the important part. What I think about our spiritual journey, because I think I'm a spiritual being having this human experience. So my struggle is not in spirituality, it's in being human. How do I be how do I be a human being and marry that with my spirituality? How do I put those two together? And I think that's the challenge most of us face, is this idea of human is a tough one.
Yeah.
Because we're going to have difficult conversations and all sorts of things that we don't want to do.
Right. Absolutely. I always say, you're human, and yet you have this spiritual side of you, but you have to learn how to let the spiritual side lead,
Exactly.
somehow.
Swallow deep, take a deep breath, and move forward.
And
kind of like the Indiana Jones episode.
Or eat some kind of chocolate,
Chocolate's always good. Chocolate's always good. Oh, one of my clients.
See?
One of my clients just mailed me a whole bunch of butter tarts, fresh made butter tarts.
Oh my gosh.
She had them couriered to me.
Wow.
Oh my goodness. Don't tell Kelly Isola.
Yeah, exactly. She'll be wanting to get some. Yeah, it's fascinating. But I think you're right. And that uncomfortable place is the growing place. That's the place where we expand, where we become more of who we truly are. It requires that we draw on those inner resources to really move us in that new direction.
Right. Absolutely.
My discomfort is in waiting for something I don't have control over, like waiting for somebody else to make a decision, or waiting for an appointment, or, I'm sitting in a lot of unknown right now on what's going to happen and I can't do anything about it. And so I'm going to think about what you said, Brenda, and, what colors do I see? What do I feel? Whatever.
Mhm.
I'll breathe. Thank you for that.
Oh, yes. Yes, absolutely. Yeah, it's all just a practice of, and I don't think anybody ever gets it down. It's just doing it over and over and over again. At least it is for me. I don't, and that's why it took me by so much surprise that I was okay the first time the bike went down. Like, wow, I'm really calm. Why am I so calm? But you're absolutely right, Barbara, when you said that there was no fear because I was around friends.
Yeah.
And, even the people I didn't know, I still didn't really, I really didn't care what they thought about me dropping my bike. But the fact that they came and helped me, I knew that, it was, it's okay. It's
Mhm.
okay. So I was really surprised by that. But you're right. There was no fear. And I'm like, this is not, it almost was like, this is not right. Why am I so calm? Why am I so calm about this? And I'm like, just let it be. We're calm.
We'll show you around the corner.
We'll disrupt that calm in just a second.
Right.
Enjoy this for now.
Oh, you think you're calm.
You still haven't learned how to pick up this 800-pound bike, so guess what?
Another opportunity for learning.
Yeah.
And also to be willing to ask for help and ask for support and to receive it. And I think that one of the things that we really need right now is to get back out in public. And there's a lot of people who are still struggling with that in-person thing. They're doing lots of online stuff, but not really comfortable with going out and being around a lot of people. And I think it's absolutely essential at this time to just go over that discomfort enough to get into these places so that we can reconnect physically. We need those conversations. We need to be hugged. There's a lot of connection that can happen. And that, I think, is our next step. It's a discomfort for sure after COVID, but it's like we need to do it because the loneliness in the US has reached epidemic proportions. And I imagine it's the same here in Canada. So I think making sure that people realize the value of connecting with others it's really important.
Yeah, and relearning how to do that because
Yes.
like for me, I've been divorced for 3 years now and honestly, I was living with my child and we have now separated. They have their own place and I have my own place. So since October of last year, I've been living alone for the first time in 13 years. And
Wow.
so I'm feeling that. And at first it was extremely uncomfortable living by myself. Like, oh my gosh, I have to do something. I have to go somewhere. I have to, just to not be in it. But finally I said, no, we're not going. We have to learn how to do this, right? First, I have to learn how to be by myself all over again. And so now I have, and I was just at a minister's retreat at the end of April. And, everybody was like, oh, next year, let's come back for like a year before or a day before so we can have, maybe some silent time and, all this. And I'm like, I don't want more silent time. I have silent time every time I go home. I need
plenty of silence.
connection. Yeah. Like you crazy people, I need connection. And I need to be with you and I need to be talking because I'm forcing and because I've never been like a real, party person or anything like that. So it's learning for me, getting out of my comfort zone and learning how to be around people now again. you know, and
Yeah.
how to interact and how to be in crowds and how to do things by myself in a crowd. And that's very uncomfortable for me. But I know that it's, like you said, it's very, very important that I get out and I do things with other people, not just my friends, but in, you know,
In groups.
like, yeah, in groups. Like I went to a concert by myself for the first time ever. And at first it was very uncomfortable, but the more the night went through, I'm like, yeah, I could totally do this again. And I did.
Well,
And
it's
I
like
did.
going out for dinner by yourself or whatever. Now we're down to our last 3 minutes, if you can believe it. What is the one takeaway you'd want people to walk away from this show with? The most important thing, you think?
You know, just to be easy with yourself but to push yourself out of your comfort zone for sure.
I love that.
Because you learn a lot when you do.
I like that. What about you, Mark? What do you think would be important takeaway from today's show?
Without discomfort, there is no action.
Oh, yes, I like that. I like that. Yeah, and I really appreciated the steps you gave to help with anxiety, to touch something, to look at a color. What are you tasting? What can you smell? But getting very, very present. I think that's incredibly valuable when we're having that feeling of, I don't know, because we can't do anything when we're right there. We're kind of stopped in our tracks. So we have to do something in order to get moving in a positive direction again. So,
Right.
yeah. Brenda, thank you. This was a fabulous conversation. Thank you so much for being here today. Marg, you're brilliant as always. I always love the little bits you put in because every time you ask a question, it's like right on point. So you did it again. I love it. So everybody, you've been watching Out of My Mouth here on the New Thought Media Network. We're going to be changing our name to Having Courageous Conversations because that's exactly what we do here. So look for that in the fall. And in the meantime, we're here every Wednesday at 4 p.m. Eastern Time. That's 2 p.m. Mountain. And of course, you can figure out the time zones. I'm sure you can. And on that note, I just want to say thank you to everyone for being here, for checking us out. And just know that the New Thought Media Network has programming all day, every day. So don't sit back and wait for this show. Check out some of the others. There's some good stuff here. And you can like, share, and subscribe, please. And send this to friends. Anybody you know who's uncomfortable, send them this. Let them get a little bit of comfort out of it. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you again next time. Thank you, Brenda. Thank you, Mark.